Hi. I love that dress. I have that dress.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Amazing. I love that. Yes.
I'm packing it for Hawaii this weekend. So,
Good.
yeah. How are
Incredible.
you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. You look gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. So do you. Where do you live?
In the northern part of San Diego, Encinitas.
Mhm. Beautiful.
How about yourself? I forget.
I live in Miami.
Ah, nice, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, you get lots of Miami vibes right now.
Yeah. Very Miami outfit today.
Have you guys been in Miami a while?
2.5 years.
Nice.
So
Okay.
not it's like still relatively new.
Okay. Mm,
Yeah.
mm. I I went to see what we were talking about, just like and your
Yeah.
team hadn't gotten back to me,
Yeah.
so I
Sorry
was
about that.
no, it's totally
We're
fine.
inevitably bad at filling out the
Intake forms.
pre-interview thing. Yes. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't. I don't know what happens there, but
It's all
anyway, yes,
good.
yes,
So then, my only question, because I was doing, I'm obviously I'm very familiar with so many of the things that you're doing, but you have, I mean, I love that you have so many amazing things going on,
about
including
anything.
two new things right now, which is the podcast and
Yeah.
the program that you're
Yeah.
launching. And so, I was curious, what is feeling most alive for you?
Well, I mean, your people,
My ladies,
they're really like, I mean, obviously you wrote this book and you're really about health.
health, yeah, women's health, but I mean, women. I mean, we're all in it. We're we're all in it.
I mean, I
You know,
wonder if a conversation about money would be really supportive for them because it might not be a topic you usually cover and what our financial health has to do with our physical health.
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Talk about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Just quitting out of some other things just so that I'm like fully here, making
Perfect.
sure nothing's going to be making noise at
Dingy
us.
noises.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that for sure because I know that obviously a big part. And I thought we talk about, I was thinking, what was I thinking? But yeah, I think tying that into our overall health and kind of where we're landing in terms of our mindset around things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then let's say so let's say that's where we're going. And I guess the first question will be for me is kind of what was that kind of defining moment for you that decided to kick off that journey to help so many women in this department? How does that sound? And
Absolutely.
all right, does that sound good?
That's great. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Oh, and then one more thing, Kate, honey, before we get going, where do you want to send people? What would you love?
Yeah. So I've got this like money breakthrough guide that outlines the biggest money breakthroughs of 21 high earning women that we put together. So that's over at katenorthrup.com/breakthroughs. But I know that your team will put it at a link on your website or a redirect.
It's gonna no, actually, it'll just go straight to there.
Oh, great.
Only time we ever do that is if we're an affiliate for something, then
Okay,
we'll pretty
awesome.
link it up.
I mean, depending on when, do you know when this might go
I
live?
believe it's gonna go the second week of November.
Okay,
My team
great. So
requires,
then,
I don't know,
yeah,
does
then
your
it's
team require like
evergreen.
weeks in advance? My team's like, we did it, like I have to get things submitted like 2 weeks in advance.
That's great. Oh my gosh, amazing. So yeah, that's perfect. Then it's evergreen and that'll be
My business
fantastic.
isn't my business. My business, I got people tell me what to do. They're like, "Did you get the thing in?"
I
I'm
know.
like, "Getting video editors need da 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 da," and I'm like, "All right,
I
I'm
know.
doing the
I know.
thing."
The bigger you grow, the more you got to abide by other people's timelines. It is a
Exactly.
blessing
It is
mostly.
such a blessing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think whatever that second Tuesday is of November.
Fantastic. That'll be
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. All right. Here we go. Here we go. I just need to push one more recording button for local, and we
Right.
are
And I
good to
do
go.
have I don't know how long you usually go. I do have a thing right at 3 o'clock my time. I'm
Perfect.
assuming you do
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah. Hearts. Yeah. I gotta pick up a toddler.
amazing. Understood. I have one with a fever on the couch.
Oh, mine's getting over something right now, but he good enough to go to preschool today.
Yeah. Rock on.
Outdoor preschool.
Good for him. That's awesome.
Yeah, he was not happy about getting out the door today. He was not. Once he got there, he was like, "Wait, you guys are still here?" Like,
Yeah, I love it.
okay, here we go. Okay. Welcome to the Energized podcast. Kate, honey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks. Thanks
Oh,
for having me.
I just want to just take a moment. I know a lot of people, are listening to this versus watching this on YouTube, but you are just glowing and colorful, and you are just a sight to behold. You're like a yummy candy to take in today.
Thank you. I love that. Well, earlier today, I was hosting an event I did called Money, Sex, and Power. So I'm like in that vibe right now.
Yeah, I knew that that was happening. I didn't know if that was today. So that makes sense. You are definitely embodying all of that energy. And let's talk a little bit about that energy. I know we're going to segue into really a little bit about that topic, but how did today feel? How did it go? And the input, like how did money, sex, and power come together? Kind of what was the defining moment for this beautiful launch?
Oh, well, there's been a few of them over the years. Early days, I got started teaching women about money and really exploring it as a topic myself because of witnessing my parents' divorce and really seeing how much drama there was about money and witnessing my mom go through her own financial awakening, um, you know, in midlife and realizing, I was a teenager at that time and I kind of made an internal pact with myself to not give my financial power away in the way I had witnessed her do. And so that was the original impetus. And I got started in business pretty early. I started my first businesses as a teen. Sorry, I have to cough 1 second.
Okay.
And then I was really studying, though, like the laws of prosperity from a metaphysical perspective. And I didn't lean heavily enough on the 3D and on the, well, what do you actually do about earning money and tracking your expenses and like being a really good steward of money. And I misunderstood that in order to have prosperity, we need to not only earn money, but we also need to take excellent care of what we bring in and be a conduit for resources, be a steward for our resources. And I was kind of missing that second part of the equation. I was pretty good at making it, but then it would just sort of
flutter away.
And so I got myself into quite a bit of debt. And I tried to I listened to the debt experts and they all just felt very shamey and very like disciplinarian and very patriarchal and, sort of condescending. And it just really did. I just couldn't get myself to follow that kind of advice. And so I decided to do something radical, which is instead of beat myself up for my financial issues as a way of getting myself to change, I decided to explore what would it be like if I brought love into the equation. And I actually just poured more love on the situation. And through some practical steps in which I did that, really incorporating financial care, financial like awareness with my self-care, I was able to pay off my debt, triple my income, double my savings in a matter of 6 months. And that work became my first book, Money, a Love Story. And then last fall, I decided to revisit the money topic about 9 years after my book came out, because there were some changes in my own life behind the scenes. And a lot of our community, I knew, things are wonky in our world right now. And I just knew I could bring some medicine to the table that I haven't heard other people talking about in quite the same way. And I had developed new curriculum, new experiences, new strategy, done a lot of more research over a decade. And so that's why I brought that conversation back. So I kind of took a break from 2015, maybe until 2020, whatever, it doesn't matter the year, but anyway, I took a break and then I came back and started talking about money again in a totally new way.
I want to hear a little bit about that because you're absolutely right. We're very much in a wonky time. I feel like a lot of people are feeling it across the board. Things just feel tighter. People are very much, feeling themselves much more stuck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the energy that we're definitely feeling, even with friends and family. And it definitely feels like it's an energy shift as well, is what I'm feeling. And so I don't know if that was the kind of the impetus for you deciding to bring this around with the mindset and the energetics of, really having a different way of managing money and, cultivating more of it. Is based on kind of the energy you were feeling as well. Was that something you were picking up on?
So what happened is, behind the scenes, on a very personal level, we had made some really dramatic changes in our life. So in 2021, my husband and I moved to Miami with our kids sort of unexpectedly. And suddenly we were paying for two lives. So we had this whole other life in Maine. And then now we were paying for a new life in Miami, that included private school and really high rent and just a lot more expenses that we didn't, it was kind of overnight. And my husband was really struggling health wise. He had something called topical steroid withdrawal, TSW. And he was just so sick and really not able to participate in our lives in the way he had previously. And so I was faced with a scenario in which I was the primary parent. I was feeling really pressured financially to bring in the income, and I was operating out of stress and pressure 24/7. And I was so burned out and I was really pissed. Honestly, I was really resentful. This was not the first time that he had been sick. And while I was incredibly compassionate and felt so bad as a mom of young kids and a business owner and a householder, it just like felt like too much. And so I decided to do an experiment. And the experiment was, I would go a certain amount of time, which was 90 days, I decided, or a certain amount of money in the hole. So I was like, okay, either 90 days will come, or I will have gone, I will have taken, like, spent a certain amount of our savings. And until one of those things happens, I am going to just give myself permission to relax and see what happens. Because I was like, I can't live with this level of pressure and stress that I'm
Because
under right now.
right. Because, and also just, you guys are in business together. Is that
We
correct?
were, yeah, at the time, actually,
At the
my
time?
husband was not in the day to day.
Okay.
We have sort of like, since 2016, we've been in a variety of different constellations. Currently, today, we are, yeah, he's fully in the day to day and he's running everything behind the scenes, which is great. And so, but at that time, we were in a slightly different scenario. And so anyway,
Mhm.
what happened was, I just was sort of doing this experiment to figure out, like, will the thing happen that my mind is telling me will happen if I relax? And the thing that my mind was telling me would happen if I relaxed would be that everything would fall apart. And, I would essentially not be able to feed my kids and not be able to pay my team and, end up living on the street in a box. And that didn't happen. We hit all of our financial goals without a problem. Um, and so, but 90 days came and went, and then 6 months after that, my husband actually got hit by a car. And so he first he broke his knee, then he got hit by a car. And so it was like the universe was just giving us lesson after lesson of like, hey, do you think are you still gonna relax? Like, still now? Like, how about with this level of chaos? How about with this level of intensity? You think it'll still work? And so I just kept taking that opportunity to be like, okay, also this, now he's in a hospital. Oh, also this, now we're doing 2 surgeries. Also this. And I just kept learning how to regulate my nervous system and relax despite the external evidence that told me it was not a good time to relax. Because what we've been taught is that we need to wait until our external lives are a certain way, specifically financially. We think when I have a certain amount in the bank, when I hit this particular milestone, then I will feel safe. Then I will feel secure. Then I can finally exhale. And the truth is that when we're wired that way, when we're constantly waiting for something else to happen, we usually will continue to move the carrot, move out the finish line, and we will end up spending our entire lives living under pressure and stress, never giving ourselves permission to actually just be here. And so that's why I decided to revisit this material, because I was like, I cannot be the only person who needs to learn the lesson of how to relax first and then allow my financial life to reorganize around that set point.
Mm. Hmm. I was thinking, because I know you're a mom of two girls, or just a mom of two young girls, and just you got you're half the adult population in your house is out for the count. Just that job alone, you know, not the financial business. Make sure everything runs. Make sure the team is handling their business. Make sure everyone's doing the thing. Was it first for you, Kate, a level of surrender?
I think it was I wish it was a level of surrender. It was more of a level of collapse.
Okay.
So,
so
it was March of 2021, and I had to really admit that I was super burned out, which was embarrassing because I had written this book called Do Less, which is really essentially about how to avoid burnout. And there I was 2 years later, like super freaking burned out. And I think we choose the topics that we choose, or the topics that we choose us, because they are what we most need to work on ourselves. And so I just it wasn't full on collapse, but I just did a lot of lying around, crying, and like watching TV during the day. And so I wish it looked like some sort of spiritual surrender, but it was just more of like collapse and then a lot of screaming into my pillow in the closet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that is a form of surrender. I mean, I think about surrender just being like, this is this is it. This is what I'm in. And I'm just in it. And, like, am I going to fight this, or am I just going to allow it?
Yeah, and it was so much of letting go of, I think, one of the biggest things, and I think anyone can relate to this who is going through a chronic illness or through a period of time that's just like something super intense that's going on longer than they wish it would have. And whether that was, we all experienced that during the pandemic, like whatever the scenario may be. And it was especially when Mike got hit by the car, which was the sort of the pièce de résistance. It was like wow, I can't believe this is also happening. And one day I was visiting him in the hospital, and I just got in the hospital bed with him, and I was like, okay, so we have to do something different this time in this health crisis. And here's what we're going to do. We are going to, what if we didn't wait to say, like, when Mike can walk again, when he's healthy, then we can have all these things that we want in our life. And we were just like, we are just going to live now with this. Like, what if this was just part of the life, as opposed to us delaying the living until a certain thing. And so I think that was some degree of surrender, of incorporating what was happening into our lives instead of waiting to live until that difficulty was over.
That totally makes sense. And then I know the question that is being begged to be asked is, well, what did that look like for you, Kate? Like that moment you sit on the bed with Mike and you're just like, this is how it's going to need to look, or this is how I feel. We've been doing it this way. And this is where I'm at. And I know that I can't keep going like this. So this is the shift that gets to happen. It gets to happen.
It gets to happen.
It gets to happen. And this is how we're going to do it right now.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, I just want to shout out really clearly that, like, for everyone listening, they might be imagining like, oh, wow, so you were just like parenting 2 kids solo and running your company and whatever. Like, not through the whole thing, but much of the time I had an au pair or a full-time nanny. So I want to be super clear about breaking down the illusion of doing things by ourselves. I would not have navigated this period so well if that had not been the case. So I just want to say that really clearly.
Yeah. And I still want to just honor the fact that even with decent childcare,
yeah, it's still too much.
It's
it was
still
still totally too much, but I think like
I
one of the
appreciate it
things,
because a very
yeah,
different ball game with or without. I get.
yeah, we
I
just
get
need to
it.
talk about like one of my favorite things to ask people about is their scaffolding. Like, what does your support structure look like?
Mhm.
And I like to get into the minutia of it because I don't know why, but I'm fascinated. I'm like,
I'm
okay, who's
fascinated.
with the kids when? Who makes the food? What's happening? Who's changing the sheets? Like, really, so much of that baseline life
Who's
stuff.
going through the house and picking the things up? Like,
Thank you.
I mean,
Like,
who's just
who's
trying
taking
to,
the Legos
where are
off
all
the
the
floor?
water bottles?
Who?
Just kidding.
Yes, thank you. Where are
I
all
went
the
around
water
my
bottles?
house
And like,
and
who's
collected
making
water
sure they're
bottles
not
this morning.
moldy? Yes,
Exactly.
totally. So I just like, I think it's important to name that. And now, of course, I have forgotten your question. Oh, how did it actually look? So yeah,
Yeah,
that was one of the
that's
things,
one
was
of the
leaning
things.
on support.
Yeah.
So leaning on support. And one of the things that happened that my husband and I talk about a lot during this whole, like, so he was sick or injured for off and on for 5-6 years. And so one of the main things that happened at the beginning, especially, is that when he would come, obviously he has his whole own spiritual journey and he's done such incredible work on himself. And like, he's such an amazing man. And he had his own journey of that. And so early on, when I was drowning and he was drowning in his health issues, he would like come, we would be talking about stuff and it was really hard on him emotionally also. And if he would bring it up, I would say, thanks for letting me know. Who can you call for support with that? Because so often in our culture, our primary relationship, our romantic relationship, becomes the relationship where we try to have everything held and all the needs met. And I was not in a place where I had any extra capacity for any of his feelings. And so I just said, like, that's so valid. And that sounds really hard. And who can you call for support? And so as a result of kind of that continued exploration for both of us, we really created this beautiful web of support, paid and unpaid, so that we could enjoy the nourishment of community and of not needing to hold everything by ourselves throughout the entire process. So even as an example, the day he was hit by the car, I called a girlfriend of mine who lives in Miami, who doesn't have kids. And I said, like, hey, I'm in the emergency room with Mike. Our nanny has to go home. Will you go be with the girls, feed them dinner, put them to bed? And then will you bring your jammies and go to bed in my guest room? Because I don't know when I'm going to be home. And she slept there, put the kids to bed. And then when they woke up, she had them not wake me up. And I woke up like late that morning, 7:30 in the morning, which is like really, really late for me. And they were all just like snuggled on the couch in a little blankie, being quiet, waiting for me. And I think even a moment like that, where I let myself feel the support, let myself feel the gratitude. We had a really good laugh about it. We all got under the blankie and snuggled together. Even a moment like that, to like allow myself the audacity of having pleasure and joy while my husband's like in a hospital and just eking out all the sweet moments along the way. I think that's so much of what I learned, was like, life is happening now. It's not ideal. It's never going to be ideal. We're not really going to ever have our ideal scenario. Like, yeah, dreams can be manifested all the time. Some parts of my life now are like so far beyond my wildest dreams. They're so good, but it's never going to be ideal. There's always like trash to take out and laundry.
You mean like yesterday?
Like
Absolutely. Every day.
that stuff is there.
Totally.
So I think that was one of the main things, is like getting more support, being willing to be vulnerable and just say to people, like, I need help.
Yeah. Yeah. I was listening to you, and I had a brain injury this summer.
Mm.
And this is my husband's in the business with me, and it's my brand, ish. I mean,
Yeah,
it's branded
yeah,
as
it
me.
is.
Um, yeah. And yeah, it was just the surrender of it.
The
I remember reaching
surrender
out
of
to
it.
you in the middle of it, and as I'm trying to take steps in the direction that feels good, and that fires me up, because I love this. I love what I do, whether I've got a brain injury or not. And I'm not, there was a day I couldn't drive a car or even get my son ready in the morning, and that was just in July. And
Wow.
I think about curating those moments of even in it, you know. Um, and yeah, just I guess for me, the reason I was asking about surrender is I felt like that was the curriculum, or that was the lesson
Yeah.
that I kept getting handed
Mm.
in the process.
It's a good one. Even
Yeah.
this morning, we launched the first full length episodes of my new podcast today,
Yeah.
Plenty.
Today. Okay. I
Today.
wasn't
Yeah,
sure if it was last
today.
week. Okay. Today.
And
Wow.
it wasn't happening at the exact time I had wanted, la 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 la.
Yeah.
And I was taking a walk and I could feel myself like wanting to message the team and being like, what's holding it up? What do you need
What's
from me?
going
Like, I want
on?
the
Why
da da
isn't
da
it
da.
up? Yeah.
And I was just like, what if God has, and I know not everyone's comfortable with that word, but
Or
whatever, the
source,
universe,
or
life
yeah,
source
whatever.
has a better, like, what if there's even a better plan? What if like the unfolding perfectly of this podcast launch is actually going to be supported in some completely untime related way? And what if I could just take a walk and enjoy? It's like
Then
literally
it's just
not going to
even,
matter. The
yes,
30 minutes is
then
not
it's
going to
even
matter.
better.
Like, it just doesn't matter. And I think that was just, I can feel myself coming up against, and in the past,
Acted.
I would have acted. I would have shot off the message. I would have responded, really like quickly
Mm.
and like spikily
Reactively.
to
Yeah.
the
Oh
email,
yeah. Like
reactively, whatever. And it's like,
efficiently.
now I can just, not all the time, but like take a step back and just be like, A, does this matter?
Right.
And B, could there possibly be something larger going on here than like my tiny personality idea of what I think should be happening? And like, yeah, I mean, all the things that have been for the best in my life, I wouldn't have ordered them to happen that way at all.
Mm.
They've always turned out to be rich learning opportunities. Do I think everything happens for a reason? I don't know, but I do think that we can learn from everything, whether it happens for a reason or not. I mean, it's happening. We might as well use it.
Well, congratulations on the
Thanks.
launch, on the podcast launch. I know that it's no small feat.
Yes, I know, so many moving parts.
Oh my gosh, we just rebranded the show,
Congrats.
which is, and the cover art isn't updated yet. It's been a week, and we finally found out why. But I knew we were gonna figure it out. I mean, it's already rebranded, it already happened, and the cover art will be there when it gets there.
When it gets, it'll
It'll be
happen
there.
when it happens. I always say to myself, it takes as long as it takes.
Mm, I really appreciate that. It takes us. I like the other one. It'll happen when it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Yeah. And it
that
doesn't
feels
mean to
good.
be lazy, right? It doesn't mean to be lazy. It doesn't mean to disengage with our own activities and our devotion to our purpose. I mean, I think that like we can still be really ambitious and goal driven and surrendered at the same time.
I think that's what it is. I think, at least for someone like myself who is gonna always take inspired action,
Yes.
and and there that just kind of eases
Yeah.
my inspired action heart. That's really what it
Yes.
comes
Well, and
down to.
I think that when we are more relaxed, more surrendered, I believe that the energy with which we do things really impacts the result. And my grandfather always used to say, how we do it is what we get. So when we are taking inspired action from a place of trust and openness, we're only going to get more flow, as opposed to if we're taking action from a place of like white knuckling it and tightness. We're going to be blocking the flow when we do that. So I'm always trying to like, okay, where can I relax? Where can I soften an edge here? Where can I trust a little bit more?
Mm. And I want to take it back to 2021, moving to Miami. Girls are in new schools, all the things, and that 90 days where
Yeah,
I know we went on a journey.
we did.
It was beautiful. I'm so grateful we did. But it was, you decided in that 90 days, if I kind of relax into versus kind of trying to shove it through, what's going to happen? Either we're dipping into the savings, to
Yeah,
pay payroll or whatever that looked like.
yeah,
I don't know exactly know. Or maybe it all works out,
yeah,
even better than I imagined. And so that's ultimately, and then that next 90 days and the next 90 days. And that's kind of what I've obviously a very, small version of
yeah.
what kind of the curriculum is that you're educating right now about the mindset around, or the energetics around money.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, so much of it is a piece that I hadn't understood when I came out with my first book, Money, a Love Story, which is about nervous system regulation and how our nervous system uh, and our ability to be regulated is so critical to our ability to take inspired aligned action. And when we are dysregulated, we tend to do things that are unnecessary. We do too many things. We do them in an unfocused way. We're all over the place. Or, so that's more of a hyper end of the spectrum, or we're in a hypo response and we are under the covers with with the lights off, watching Netflix all day. So we can either go into a hyper state, which is fight, flight,
Right.
or we can go into a hypo state, which is freeze, fawn ish.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really need to look at, like, oh, that's interesting. What's my tendency? And our culture really celebrates the hyper. It celebrates getting right into action. It celebrates doing a bunch of things to fix the problem. But when it comes to like our finances or our jobs or really anything, we think that the solution is going to be doing more things, but 9 times out of 10, the solution to any problem is not actually additive, it's subtractive. And we cannot see the situation clearly when we are dysregulated. And dysregulation comes from our nervous systems being in a state of fear, being in a sympathetic nervous system response. And sympathetic nervous system responses can come from any number of things. It could come from a past trauma that you've experienced that's being triggered, an ancestral trauma, a collective trauma. It can come from all kinds of things. And so just knowing that helped me realize that so many of our responses around finances are trauma responses based on fundamentally feeling unsafe. And if we, especially as women, if we can learn to feel safe first, then we can actually be financially empowered. But if we're trying to create financial well-being from a state of fear, we cannot take smart, consistent, sustainable action. We will be all over the place and continually acting in a disempowered state around money. So I began to learn about my own nervous system in 2016, started practicing nervous system healing practices in a very organized way. Before that, I was doing it, but I didn't realize I was doing it. And so, I've dedicated 7 years to really studying and learning and exploring and researching, so that then when I launched Relax Money for the first time last fall, I was so excited to bring a conversation and practice around nervous system regulation and trauma healing to the conversation around money, because money has been the cause of so much trauma and it can be part of our healing. And the program combines the practicals and the energetics and the physical and the emotional, so that you can really understand all of it all together. It's not just spreadsheets. It's not just breathing. It's like a
Right, right.
whole host of, it's a holistic approach so that you actually walk away with a sustainable skill set.
That's powerful. That's super powerful. And I know that was, I know that's the new program as well. And I love that you brought in so much of the co-regulation that is really needed, not just in the money aspect, but in all areas.
In all areas, because what we know is that most of our wounding happens in community, and then we go and try to do the healing alone. But actually, when the wound happened in community, the healing needs to happen in community.
Mm. So I love that there's such a big community component to this as well.
Yeah. And one of the things we're incorporating this time, which, of course, if you're listening, we'd love to have you in the program, but you can do this part alone, which is the worst sales pitch ever.
I mean, no, I don't think so. I mean, it's going to be a piece, right?
Exactly.
Of
This
the
is
whole,
a
a
piece.
small piece
This
of
is
the
a
whole
piece.
thing.
And it's like having a money pod. One of the things that I think our culture has done us a tremendous disservice in this way is that we've been conditioned to believe that it's not okay to talk about money, right? That it's rude, that it's unsavory, that it's tacky. And so there's so much taboo and so much secrecy and so much hiding. But how are we supposed to learn about something that we were never taught and we're not supposed to talk about? And yet everybody wants more of this thing, right? It's ridiculous. And so very similar to sex, by the way.
And
And
weight loss.
so, and yeah, right,
Yep.
totally. All of these topics. And so I really recommend creating a money pod where you have a small group where you all agree, like, and it might be helpful if you're all around the same income level. This can be really helpful. Or like, I find that I have certain friends in business that I can really share real numbers with because um maybe we're around the same level of business and it's very helpful. And I find that when we can just say like, hey, wow, I just made, X number of dollars in my business on this webinar, or whoops, I just had to dip into my credit line by X number, or like da da da. It is so healing to say the truth and to be seen in the truth and to hold one another in celebration and also in our highest, because we do tend to forget how powerful we are. We do tend to forget how capable we are. And so having sisters to remind us like, hey, you've got this. And also like, remember you have that tracking app, or like, oh, you've got this. Remember, here's like an abundance meditation. Go for a walk, girl, because you are like super dysregulated and you need to bring it down, or take your shoes off, go sit in the dirt, whatever you like. We need to hold each other and help each other co-regulate. And so we're adding in money pods this time in Relax Money for that reason, so we can lean even more heavily into Relax Money and people can have that small group to feel super connected to and seen by.
I love that. I love that. And I love the kind of the advice in terms of a pod, but I still think people will be like, who are these people for me? And that's really what you're providing. I mean, still, I'm like,
well, it is true. Not everyone, I do take that for granted. Like it's very common in my online programs. And I don't know if you find this to be true, where folks who come to find my work tend to be the black sheep in their family. They are often the only one in their friend group who is like spiritual or woo woo, or, whatever you want to call it. And so, and I have people come in who are like, I'm the only entrepreneur I know. So it's not common. Like this work of challenging the status quo and really asking what is optimal is not normal. And so we do have to stick together, those of us who are out here on the fringe, just being like, how good can it get?
yeah,
And then we just got to gather up.
I love it. I love it. And that's literally the kick. What you were doing today is kicking off this new program. Is that correct?
No, today I was doing a celebration event to launch the podcast.
Oh, nice. Okay,
So,
got it.
the
Okay.
Money, Sex, and Power event was the celebration to
Oh,
launch.
nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yes.
It was a time to get together and kind of activate our collective magnetism. That was really fun.
That is so fun. Oh, I just love that. I love that energy. Such brilliant. Because again, that's really cultivating not only celebration, but also community, which I love.
Yes, that's what we need. More celebration, more community, more connection. I find for me, like when I feel connected, I am reminded that everything's okay. And when I know that everything's okay, when I feel safe, then my body is relaxed. And when we are in a relaxed state, we are more powerful. The most powerful person in the room is the most relaxed person in the room.
Mm. Kate, would you be open to sharing with me or sharing with us kind of what are some of the things that you do to feel safe?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of these would fall under the umbrella of a nervous system regulating tool or a nervous system healing tool. I have, a massive toolbox of these, and I just sort of pepper them throughout the day. They've become so habitual that I'm not even like, oh, now I'm doing
Doing this one.
this. Like
Yeah.
it's just kind of part of the deal. So,
Yeah.
I've just started. This is 2 days in. Just started drinking warm lemon water in the
Mm.
morning. Drinking a warm beverage slowly is actually very regulating to the nervous system. I do that in my little egg chair on my balcony while watching the sunrise next to my bougainvillea plant, which I'm like deeply connected to
What
her.
color is she?
Like hot pink, like the
She's a
color of
hot
my
pink. Okay.
yeah.
I didn't know if she was like a yellow,
So that
orange.
I know, oh my God, I'm so obsessed with this plant. So that's like a very stacking behavior. So the warm lemon water is very regulating on top of the suspended egg chair. So I'm swinging on top of connecting with a plant, on top of watching the sunrise and getting the morning red light in my eyes, which is maybe it's not specifically regulating to the nervous system, but it is regulating to my cortisol. So
Yes. And your
that's all.
mitochondria.
Yeah, totally. So I'm doing that. So that is one. I do my best to move every day, even if it's just a 10-minute walk. The bilateral rhythmic motion is very regulating to our nervous systems. Snuggling with my kids or with my husband, like that just connection, oxytocin burst is very useful. Dancing. I lie down on my biomat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, breathing in and out through my nose is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I really like lower back rib breathing. That's one I learned that is very helpful. I like it because I can do it anytime. So if I'm feeling activated during a meeting or if I'm feeling I'm nervous during a presentation, I can slow myself down and actively like send my breath into my lower back ribs. And that's automatically kind of turns on the I am safe signal, and then becoming aware of gravity. So that's a smattering.
I love those. Yeah. I love them. I love them. And yeah, they just become very unconscious, just kind of
They do.
because you must be really connecting into that awareness of when you start
Yes.
to notice.
Yes.
Um, and I think that's a big part of it too, is becoming consciously aware. I've operated in sympathetic, again, very praised for it.
Yeah. We have a
People are always
very
like, oh my gosh,
sympathetic
you're just
culture.
so on top of it and da 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 da. And they're like, how do you do that? I'm like, it's trauma.
Totally.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
I'm just
trauma.
traumatized.
It's just trauma.
Just hypervigilance as a
It's
trauma
that's
response,
me.
which
Da,
is
da, da,
like
da, da.
so celebrated in our culture. It's so sick.
I know they're just like, wow. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, no, that's not, this is not how one should operate constantly. Like, I, I know you appreciate it because like you're like, wow, she's on top of it. She responds and da 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 da. Da.
Totally.
She's so
I
dependable and reliable because she's
and
always
it
there.
is like a beautiful thing. And so then we can ask ourselves, how can we set up systems so that, one of the things I teach is to really look at at Pareto's principle and look at the 80-20. So what are the 80% of tasks? No, nope. What are the 20%
Task
of
that.
activities that get me 80% of the results?
Mhm.
And then everything else that we're doing, either eliminate it, automate it, delegate it, or systematize it. I wish the word was systemate it, but it's not.
It can't, well, it can be
It
for
doesn't
today.
rhyme. But if we have systems and support or automations on board, then we can be held by our systems and by our support structures instead of us needing to be the systems, so that we can still be successful and responsive and dependable while also not needing to hold it all ourselves.
I hope that's sunk in for everybody who's listening right now. That's so powerful. Yeah, getting super clear on that 20% that's really moving the needle for you and then delegating the rest out. The mental bandwidth that I feel women hold not only for their partners, but for their children. I mean, it's just in the household alone. My partner the other day asked me a question and I kind of just looked at him like, are you putting that on my plate right now? I know you know the answer. I know you know this answer. Like, I don't need it. I'm going to give it right back to you. I'm going to hand you back the plate.
Yeah. Very similar to when Mike, was coming
Yeah.
to me for emotional support. And I was like, yeah, that's a lot. Who are you going to call for help with that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, that was so profound. I feel like so many women heard that and were like,
Mm.
mm-hmm. Especially if not only just in the household. I don't know how many partners have partners that are working with them as well, like
Yeah,
in
it's
all facets of
unusual.
everything. Yeah, like that's just a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So I just really appreciated that, not only that you're giving us something that's very practical, like the 20% versus the 80%, but then also the regulation of how critical it is to feel safe. And that was really what you tapped into in those 90 days of like, am I going to operate in these next 90 days from a place of safety and that it's going to be okay? Not that I'm not going to take steps, not that I'm not going to show up, and do the things, but doing it from a position of it's all gonna be okay. Like we're gonna keep living life. Yes, my husband's
Yes.
injured. Yes, he's sick. Yes, he's in the hospital. Whatever iteration of where he was in his journey at the time. I know that there have been many iterations and things that have happened, but that we're not gonna keep moving this goalpost forward because
Yeah. And really, it's been interesting, just like because people, I would imagine, wonder like, okay, but yeah, but what were the direct results of that? And one of the things is I had just moved to a new city, right? So I was building a new community. I was building a new network, both from a personal perspective as a mom, girlfriends, and also from a business perspective. And I will tell you, from a business perspective, I know that my level of relaxation during that time and my level of surrender was way more magnetic than if I had come in frazzled and full of drama and full of chaos. I, Listen, we all get to collapse when we collapse. And like, certainly I had plenty of friends who I called crying. And as I was building my new community and my new web of support, I know that choosing to just like live anyway was way more magnetic and helped us build this web of support, both professionally and personally, than we would have been able to build if I just was like, I'm in crisis mode and I'm going to just be in crisis mode. And oh my gosh, like, everything's an emergency. People just like, it's not, people don't want to be around that.
no, they don't want that. They don't want that monkey.
And we know, like, listen, I'm just going to real talk here. We all know that we have had somebody in our life that we have started to over time spend less time with because they're always showing up in a state of drama.
Mm,
It's just true.
it is true.
Like, let's not be that person.
Mhm.
And also, like, yes, be honest when you're having a hard time. It can be both.
There's a yes and.
Yes, totally. Doesn't mean you have to pretend you're fine when you're not.
There's a yes and for sure. Whew, yeah, I agree with you 100% there. Like, be like be in authenticity and be in your truth, but don't be, but also don't be the Tasmanian devil coming through, every single time.
Mm.
That's a lot of energy for other people to have to hold,
Yes.
constantly have to
And
hold.
then like, I don't know why I'm feeling very feisty right now. So
I'm so
like,
grateful
because
I got you
I'm on day
today.
30, like my period's coming any day. I'm just like feeling very honest.
Oh,
So,
yeah, that in this end stage luteal phase. Oh,
right?
I very
The
much
truth
know.
filters are just like it's just a truth serum. Like, we wonder where the village is, right? And we say we're lonely. Loneliness is epidemic in our culture. And yet we do two things. One, we are constantly in a state of drama and chaos, or fear, or two, we don't ask for help and we don't reach out. And then we wonder like why we're so alone. And so really looking at like if living with someone who has been injured or ill for this long has taught me nothing else, it has taught me that we really need each other, and these bonds are everything. Like the people we love are absolutely everything, and not just family. I mean, our larger webs of support, right? And so if we're wondering like where are those people for us, I think it's important to take a look at our own behavior and take a look at our own energy and really look at like how do I want to show up? You know, how can I be a safe person for someone else? How can I be a supportive person for someone else? Because so often, and by the way, this is not a message for you if you're constantly giving of yourself and you just feel totally strung out, because that's
And you're
far
just
more
in
common.
people pleasing
Like,
mode
yeah,
constantly. Yeah,
we don't
like
need to, like, maybe you can shut it down. But you'll know, like we all know which way are we going? Are we over giving to like, right? Because we can overgive, or are we under connecting? And we can really look at that and then like prioritize space for relationships in our calendar. If you look at my calendar, you'll see I spend a lot of time with girlfriends. And I hear from women a lot saying like I don't have friends, or I don't have time for friends. And I'm like, you got to carve that out. It
I
just
agree with you.
for me at least, it is definitely part of the 20% that is 80% of the results and joy and satisfaction and all of it.
I agree. And in real life,
Yeah.
I'm
Yes, in real life, if
yes.
possible.
One of my I do a lot of walking for all kinds of reasons. I'm always educated on metabolic health, but also regulating vitamin D. I mean,
Love
there's
it.
so many benefits of walking, but the biggest reason why I do it is that's my voice memo time. Now, this isn't in real
Yes.
lifetime, but that is I
Yes.
have got a list of girls late that I am about to voice memo up and just
Mhm.
check in on. And that's when I do it, is on my walks. And so I can't, I that like even I'll ask my husband Alex, if the boys are doing their thing, we have a little toddler boy, Kingston, and if they're doing their thing, I'm like, hey, do you mind if I pop out for like 5 to 10 minutes? I'm like, ooh, because I got some voice memos to send, and so that's very much something I'm doing pretty much every single day. Just keeping in the updates of what's going on with my girls, and vice and also updating them on whatever I've got going on. And so that's just one of the many ways that I'm connecting with my nearest and dearest community support, is that. And then ideally trying to meet up with someone at least once a week. That's a
Yes.
big part for
Love
me.
it. Same.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hear from so many people just like yourself, just how lonely and how we're not reaching out. And one of the I interviewed, and they actually live in Miami, the owners of Mind Body Green.
Oh yeah.
Colleen.
Colleen
Yeah.
and yeah. The
And
welcome.
the joy of well-being.
Yeah, yeah.
And they talk about in that book of, so many people are feeling so lonely. It's a big epidemic. And they say, if it's somebody that you haven't reached out to in a while, it doesn't have to be that complicated. Like just shoot them a voice memo, or shoot them a message and just say, hey, it's been so long. I'd love to hear what you're up to. Just, I'd love to just hop on the phone. And there was a dear friend of mine actually in my wedding who I haven't, like, we'll send text messages on birthdays and whatnot. And but I finally I took that advice because I just wanted to hear how she was doing. And I literally was like, we haven't talked in so long. She had sent me a birthday message, and I was like, would you be down to get on a Zoom call? Because she doesn't live near me. And so, it was a yes. And so it was a really sweet conversation. But it doesn't have to be that complicated.
Doesn't
You
have to
know?
be that complicated. I know that I have Mike and I alternate mornings of who's on with the girls. So I know my mornings that I'm just like free to wake up and do whatever. And so often I'll book a walk and talk during those days. So if somebody wants to do a catch up, I'll just say like, yeah, Tuesday or Thursday, I'm going to be walking around 8 a.m. Like, let's do it then. And that works great.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's, I mean, that's the simplicity of it. And that's, those are the things like, how does this even, people are always like,
Yes.
how do you do it? How do you, as a mom of two who's running a business and all the things, how does that come into play? And so thanks for sharing that. All right, I know we got hard stops. And so I wanted you to share your beautiful gift with my community because I know they're going to want more because I know part of what you're gifting kind of opens the door for financial abundance, but it's a lot of the tools that you were sharing today that have so many epic side benefits of what we've been talking about.
Yeah. So, what we're talking about here really is community. And
Yeah.
I have been blessed to sort of co regulate my way to more wealth and abundance in many ways, because I've been lucky enough to have girlfriends who've been willing to share the behind the scenes in their money journey. So, what I decided to do is ask 21 of my high earning women girlfriends what their biggest money breakthrough was, and then take their responses and put them in this beautiful guide to help our community to ease their own path towards wealth with these behind the scenes insights that are the sort of thing that are usually shared behind closed doors. And so I decided to make that just because it was the kind of thing that I like to read.
I
So
love it. It's
it's
so
just totally
powerful.
free. You can go over to katenorthrup.com/breakthrough, and it's right there for you.
I highly, highly recommend. I'm gonna go get it. I don't have it yet, so I'm gonna go check it out. I want to go read these. I want to know who the list is too. Are the names on there of the ladies?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh
No,
yeah.
their pictures, their websites. Oh,
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, I
And it's
can't wait
some
to
women who
see.
you'll know, some women who you won't know. And I kind of like that.
I love that. I can't wait. Well, I'm gonna go and grab it right now. It's gonna be in the show notes, super easy to find. Anywhere else, Kate, that you would love for us to come and find you? Like, where can we plug
Yeah.
in? I mean, obviously the new podcast that literally
Yes, my new
launched today.
podcast. Yes, my new podcast, Plenty, is a great place to connect. And then also on Instagram at Kate Northrup is where I show up the most online.
I
So
love
come
your
find me
reels.
over there.
I love your videos. I love them so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your brilliance and your beauty and your energy. It has been such a just a beautiful conversation with you today.
Thank you. So fun.